My first husband ran off with my best girlfriend. When this happens, you really should give up on love. Winter love, summer love, whatever. You acquire possessions, you divide possessions. It's just wretched. But I love being in love. Divorce, not so much. It's gut-wrenching, but tonight's not about gut-wrenching. Tonight's about my summer love. So, I was teaching in Harrington, Delaware, and next door to me was a good friend of mine, and she suggested that we go on a little adventure together. Well, unbeknownst to me, she wanted me to go to Coatesville, Pennsylvania, to a horse banquet, 78 miles from my house. It tells you a lot about my social life if I tell you that I agreed to do that. And I don't know anything about quarter horses. I kept trying to picture what part they were missing. So, anyway, I am there, and they're giving out like this cartload of awards, and I thought, well, the horses aren't here, but then I realized that the people that got drug along in those little buggies were getting awards. So I sat there on this hard folding chair for a long time. But finally the music came on. And I was like, oh, I hope somebody asks me to dance. And they did. This 6-foot man, and he had a beard. And my girlfriend kept saying to me, why aren't you dating? And I said, well, look, I want someone that has a beard, a sailboat, and a lawnmower that they're not afraid to use. And she said, Diane, that's a lot. So when I saw this guy with a beard and designer jeans that it looked like he probably had to lie down on the bed to get into, I was like, yes, I'll dance. And he was really an energetic disco dancer, and I really couldn't keep up with him, but I tried. So anyway, we laughed and we talked, and he said, I think I'd like to see you again. And I said, really? I live like 78 miles away. And he spluttered a little, and he came. He came for a whole year. He drove down there, and it was good. And eventually, we were getting older, and our cars were getting older. And he asked me if I would consider moving to Chester County. And I said, well, this will be a really big sacrifice, but I think I'll do it. And I have to tell you, part of the reason was that my ex-girlfriend who ran off with my husband, her husband decided that we should hook up, and he would come over and like surreptitiously scrape the ice off my car windows, and it was really creepy. I knew like 2 marriages before he did that he was gay. So anyway, I moved to Chester County. I had a young daughter. Here I had to find a new teaching job. I had to find new doctors, childcare, closest Dairy Queen. There were so many adjustments that I had to make. But I was willing to do it. So we moved to Malvern. And according to my parents, we were living in sin. But I want you to know that when the Census Bureau came, we were officially possilques, people of opposite sex sharing living quarters. Neither of us were very anxious to get married. He'd been married before, you know the story from me. So anyway, we were living in sin. He owed me a lot because I had made this move. And My parents already were upset that I was living in sin. So on one 95-degree day, I talked him into wearing long sleeves so that my parents wouldn't know he had tattoos. I figured, living in sin and tattoos, I'm totally out of the will. So anyway, we move in our apartment, and the big deal is that he's gonna have this king-size waterbed already. You can tell where his priorities were. But anyway, so we moved all the boxes. I'm unpacking the last box, and it's time to try out the waterbed. So I get in. He works at the post office, and he is a really quick sleeper, lots of shift work. Me, I have my little rituals. I have to read, I have to deep breathe, all that stuff. But anyway, we get in the bed. Before I can even get my pillow straightened out, he is asleep. And within 2 minutes, I knew that I had made a terrible mistake. This man, this postle was lying on his back with his mouth open and these teeth-rattling sounds coming out. There was like a tsunami going on. It was vibrating and high decibel and freight train rumbling, snoring. And I was like, how can this be? And my daughter comes running down the hall, and I said, go back to bed. I'll talk to him. And I said, I don't even think I said honey. I think I said, buddy, you got to cut this out. And he said, oh, sure, honey. Remember, he's being really nice to me. So he turns over, and 2 minutes later, he's back on his back doing this god-awful thing. And this goes on night after night. And I am falling out of love, and I am sleep deprived. So, I'm so sorry. I need to go a little longer. So anyway, I decide that I'm going to fix this. I can't lose two men all at the same time. So I go to the library before Google, and I look up snoring devices. And I find this armband, and it will shock him when he goes into snoring mode. So for $39.99, I order this thing, and I can't wait for it to come. But I don't tell him. So the thing comes, and it's a little bigger than what I thought, and but I put the C batteries in it. I get the Velcro, and it has this sensitivity dial where you can turn. I crank that baby all the way up. And that night we go to get in bed, and I just say, I have solved our problem, and I need you to put this on. And he says, what the hell is that? And I said, well, I didn't say the word shock. I just said, it'll interrupt your sleep pattern. So a little while later, I hear this high-pitched, long stream of curses that went something like, Jesus Christ, Diane, what the fuck are you trying to do? Kill me? Throw that fucker out the window. So I said, wait a minute, I'll adjust it. So somehow, a couple nights later, I talked him into doing it again, and I'll get to the end here. I had to threaten I was going to go back to Delaware and everything else. And we looked down. He won't go to sleep that night. He's just wide awake. And all of a sudden, I've fallen asleep, and he's yelling, it's shocking the shit out of me, and I haven't even closed my eyes. And then we looked down, and this mutt we had rescued had kind of inched up and wasn't that far from his armband, and she was just snoring her doggy snore. So that was the end of that. We've been together 36 years. The waterbed sprung a leak. We don't have a sailboat. He has a beard, but it's gray now. And he did not know I was telling the story.
Over here.